Oh, my friends, we're in the studio. We're in the studio live for another episode of the Modeling Podcast. I'm your host, Alec Hansen. This is going to be a blast. We're on season 3. We're on stories. We're talking about things that inspire us, change us, give us perspective, because your job is hard. Being in mortgage sales is hard. Being 100% commissioned is hard. What you do is hard. But let's unpack with some stories. I'm going to bring on a repeat guest, Keven Stirdivant. Now, I met this guy because he's literally like a street hustler, which I loved about him. He's also crushing it in the real estate game, crushing it in the personal branding game. Absolutely somebody that I respect. Worked with him professionally too, and got to understand his team and how he works as a unit, and was absolutely blown away and impressed. And so we're going to talk about some real stories today. You guys ready for the heat? We're going to bring the heat. Let's buckle up for season 3. Here we go. Let's go, bro. In the studio.
Go, bro.
This is so nice. This is so nice to be back and hanging out.
Yes, man. Absolutely.
I mean, Zooms are great, but it's fun to hang out in person, man. You didn't bring me a coffee though, so I'm a little upset about this delicious coffee drink you have.
It's pretty good.
We're gonna talk about stories today, Keven, and you've done tremendous things in your career that has blown me away. Just watching you ascend and do what you do. And so the first thing that I have to ask to kind of set the whole story tone is how'd you get into real estate? What's the story? What happened?
I would say the start of getting into real estate for me was, as kind of interesting as that sounds, is really skateboarding.
Perfect. That's natural.
And why I say skateboarding is because skateboarding had me look at architecture. Right? Why? Because as a street skater, I wasn't into skating transition. I was into skating street.
Yeah.
You look at the landscape of architecture. You look for banks. You look for flat surfaces, and you also learn how to understand neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So that is really where I first started to develop a passion for real estate. Was by looking at architecture. Subconsciously, I didn't know that I was looking at architecture. And then on top of that, that's where I got my initial training for sales. You know, I grew up on welfare. My dad went to prison when I was really young, and, you know, single mom. I'm the oldest of 3. And so I had to learn how to hustle and eat. You know, I bounced around a lot of different schools. And so if I wanted the shoes, if I wanted the gear, I've always been into gear, into fashion, into nice things.
Yeah.
I couldn't get that from home. I had to go out and find a way. So I had sponsors at an early age, shoe sponsors, board sponsors. I would take what I needed and I would sell the rest. So my wife will tell you, we met in 8th grade. At the end of school, I would have a backpack full of shirts, stickers, bearings, wheels. And so skateboarding really taught me everything that I think I needed to know to sell real estate.
Bro, that's I don't see many people that translate skateboarding into real estate.
And you have to learn, and you have to know how to fall on your face over and over and over and over, and you subconsciously develop the understanding that the key to success is failure. That is how I win. That is how I succeed, is by screwing up over and over and over and over and over. And that's the only way. Nobody could do it for you.
Well, let me ask how this translates then, because some of the stuff that I'm very impressed with you, and we'll get into social media and because I think there's fun stories there, but you're not afraid to put yourself out there. We were just talking before we went live about door knocking.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has massive fear of rejection, terrified, insecurities from growing up and all that stuff, walking in to meet a realtor was terrifying to me. But how did you get over that? Or how did you make what was the transformative moment where you're like, no, this is what I do? Because there's people today that can't do it, can't handle it.
Yeah, I think it's your inspiration and your passion and your goal has to be greater than the fear.
Yeah.
It has to be a bigger driver than the fear. If your fear is greater, then you're going to live in fear. If your passion is greater, if your purpose is greater, if your vision is greater,
Yeah.
you will freaking blast through whatever that fear is. So that's the first thing. But on top of that, it's a skill set, right? So yeah, the idea of being a top producing real estate agent, a luxury agent, $1 million agent sounds great, but do you have the skills to back it up?
Yeah.
I want to be a stand-up comedian. Yeah, the idea of that sounds amazing, to make a bunch of people, thousands of people laugh. Do I have game as a stand-up comedian? I'm kind of funny, but unless I go through the motions and learn the real art of comedy, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
So I think it was a dedication to the craft of selling. I really started to, when I first got into, I mean, I've been selling literally since I was like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
But when I got my first sales job, it was like it all started to click. And I started to, like, think about it like this. I'm 13 years old. My dad gets out of jail and he starts to manage what back in the day was called family fitness, which I think later became 24-hour fitness.
Yeah, I think so.
And so my dad was managing a floor of salespeople, and he paid me $100 to memorize Alec Baldwin's scene in Glengarry Glen Ross as a 13. You know what I mean?
Well, it's one of the greatest, most iconic scenes for salespeople of all time.
Closing. And so these things were rooted in me from my dad. And my mom was also an amazing salesperson.
Yeah.
So when I kind of got my first taste of a real sales job, I realized that there's a real craft to this thing, like objection handling, the art of rapport, understanding the sales process. Like when you develop the skills, that's how you have confidence. Yeah, of course door knocking is going to be scary, or any type of sales is going to be scary if you don't know what to do. But if you learn the process and you dedicate yourself to the discipline of the craft, you can go anywhere. There's a lot of freedom in being a skilled closer.
That's fact, bro.
Right?
That's just the truth.
So that's where I can overcome that fear, because I know that if I go out and prospect, you can drop me anywhere in America where people speak English, and just as a test, I'll battle anybody. See who can get a seller lead first anywhere. And I'll bet on myself. Why? Because I have dedicated 2 decades to this day. I role play 3 or 4 days a week till this day.
It's rad.
So
that's just art of the craft, man. That's dedicated to the craft.
If you have fear, it's from ignorance. If you want confidence, that comes from knowledge. How do you develop that knowledge? Practice. Dedicate yourself to the skill set, whatever that skill is. I got a lot of fear in the kitchen. If my wife wanted me to make dinner for the family,
this is the truth coming out right now.
Come on. No.
All right. So, and the theme of this season for my podcast, and thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
I love the concept of stories. I come from a family of storytellers. My dad, just when you get around a table, the stories start flowing.
That's awesome.
And some of them may not be true, but there's truth in all of them. If you know what I mean. If you're around storytellers, like there might be embellishment, but it doesn't mean it's not true. So one of the questions I like to ask is, what's a story and an experience in your life that was transformative or formative for you? And I want to kind of put cards on the table. That could be a lot radically different things for a lot of people. I don't think we have one that defines us. But I think that as humans, we look back and we go, hey, yeah, this happened. And maybe someone can learn something from it, take something from it, be inspired by it, be motivated by it. And that's kind of the theme of this whole season, is just sharing those stories. Because before we had the internet and phones and all this craziness, we told stories.
Right.
So share one and let's go down that path.
So 18 years old or 30 years old?
Ooh, where to start?
Yeah.
I feel like we got to start at 18, because 18 defined, like the 31 maybe wouldn't have happened if the 18 didn't happen.
That's for sure. That's 1000% for sure. So I got sent to Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where I started my senior year of high school. Excuse me, my freshman year of high school. And when we left to Ohio to live with my dad, we were on welfare. Right. When we moved back home, my mom had bought a home. She'd never owned a home before. She'd bought a home in Costa Mesa. She was driving a Land Rover Discovery,
Solid.
like what? She was making six figures. It
Yeah.
was like a total culture shock
Yeah.
to what I
welfare
left.
to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what had happened is she got a job at a motivational real estate company, selling motivational seminars. I was really happy for her, but I was still kind of the troublemaker I had always been. And it's my junior year of high school, and I'm just kind of going off. I'm skating a little bit, I'm DJing a little bit, no real purpose, just being a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And in 1 week, I got three things occurred. One, I'd missed so much school, I was getting kicked out of high school.
Okay.
Two, a close friend of mine OD'd and passed away. And three, a friend of mine told me that I was going to be a father, right? Like,
jeez.
Yeah. And one time, kids, those are parents out there with teenagers, tell your kids it can be one time. So I'm a highly productive person.
Yeah. But those are three major life experiences.
At that moment, I looked at the things my dad had taught me, even though he went to prison at an early age. I was maybe 5 or 6 when that happened. He never said that that's who he was. That was a situation
Didn't
that
define
happened.
him.
He would write these letters to me and tell me hey, don't think that it's over for me in here. I'm learning, I'm getting healthy, and when he got out, he did his best to make a new life for himself.
Yeah.
And so I'm the product of, not only, of course, I'm a child of God. I'm a Christian. I know that the Lord is looking over my life, but I'm also the product of 2 incredible parents. My dad he passed away, but my mom, they both taught me and did their best to show me that there's something else out there for me. At the same time, at 17 years old, I'm still learning by default.
Yeah.
And so I get this news, and at that point, I had to make a decision of am I going to go down this path?
Yeah.
With my friend who just passed, or am I going to go down this path? And I think probably 2 weeks after I get that news, I'm at a Tony Robbins fire walk.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm making calls left and my mom doesn't even know. And I'm just before I tell her, I better figure some things out.
Yeah.
And long story short, becoming a father, I dropped out of high school entirely. I never spent one day of even my senior year. I had already been through 17 different schools.
Yeah. Jeez.
I went to 6 high schools in 3 years. I was a crazy kid, so when I had my own child to look after, I had to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so that was story number 1. That is the start of it, is realizing that this life is not about me anymore. And when I held my son for the first time, I was 18 years old. It was in the year 2000. It was I got to make something happen here. And so he was my number 1 driver to really get my act together.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the E in case.
Yes. I knew that, but I don't think everyone else knows that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the first thing.
So what's the 30 year? What, 18 now you're 30. So
you figure at 30 years old, I've now been in real estate for about a decade. Yeah. So I got a job at the same place that my mom worked for. She didn't even know I went to the sales manager.
Oh, really?
My mom had been paying me while I was in high school under the table to cold call real estate agents and sell them these seminars.
Nice.
And she was paying me $10 when the sale.
Child labor, bro.
Dude, my mom was ripping you down, me off. So I started to find out. And so I knew all the scripts. Yeah. So I went to the sales manager. His name was Steve, and we were buddies. And I'm like, look, man, I'm about to have a kid. He's like, what? I'm like, I need a job. I know these scripts. I can sell.
Let's go.
And he's like, what about school? I'm like, I'm done. He didn't
Yeah.
ask me if I graduated. So I started working at this place in what would have been my senior year of high school.
Yep.
So I start selling real estate 3 or 4 years later, but I never really broke through, man, to be honest. Like I had
Yeah.
game, but I did enough just to survive.
Yep.
I come from a training of real estate people where it's like sell 300 homes a year.
Yeah.
That was that was the product that I was selling when I went to these seminars. So I'm selling the homes that I lived in. Like if you look me up on the MLS, 2004 to 2007, my average sales price is like 450,000.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't inspired.
Mm.
And so fast forward to the 30-year moment, and you figure that's the year 2012.
Yeah.
We didn't know that 2012 things were about to shift.
Nope.
In June 2011, well, officially Memorial Day 2011, my best friend in the world, who's like a brother to me, passes away. And that really put me into a very deep downward spiral.
Yeah.
I didn't sell a single home from June to December. And I have 3 kids at this point. Right. So in January 2012, and this is that moment. This is that I'm about to be 30. I'm at a funeral and I see my name on these funeral papers. And I'm at my dad's funeral and we have the same name.
That's so wild just to see your own name.
And he was 50.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my life. And I feel like that was the moment that I went from this very, very deep, dark depression from my best friend passing to I got to break through. I have to break through.
Yeah.
And figure the only $1 million home I ever sold was in 2009. 2010, 2011, nothing. And I just said, I got on the phone with my mentor, Thatch, and I'm like, look, I'm either going to leave this business and do something else, or I'm going to create a real estate company, a real estate vision, a real estate business that I am absolutely in love with.
Yeah.
And through that vision, you see, because Thatch asked me a question that I think is important for people to ask themselves, because it's so easy, especially if you're in sales. You probably got into sales because something else bombed many times. And so why are you in sales? To survive.
Yeah.
You're not in sales. Maybe you're motivated by some other people and some other cars or whatever. But for the most part, at least for me, I was in real estate out of survival. I wasn't like really inspired about it. I wanted to do fashion, or I wanted to be like the next Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Right. And so Thatch asked me, and this is the question I think we could all ask ourselves, is if you could have it anyway, what does it look like? If you could have it anyway, what does your business look like? What does your family look like?
Mm-hmm.
What does your house look like?
Mm-hmm.
What does your health look like?
Yep.
What does your relationship with God look like? Right? Like, what does it look like? And we have to take a step back and realize that we are the producer for our life's movie. We have to write the script. And so my dad had just passed, and literally January 2012, I wrote out a vision of what the ultimate dream business had looked like. And one of the first things, just on a small level, was I want to sell homes that are mid-century modern, contemporary.
Yeah.
I want to be able to be myself.
Yeah.
I don't feel like wearing a suit and tie every day. Nothing wrong with that, but definitely not the kind of suits I was wearing. If I'm gonna be in this, I want to do it authentically.
Yeah.
And I want to serve my community, which is like skaters and the streetwear industry. Yeah. And I wanted there to be a feeling of personal development on it. I wanted it to be a real estate and personal development company. And the vision for Case was born. My buddy, Tim Kruger, was in the business with me at that time. That's my friend who I was raising money for 6 months ago, who was battling cancer.
Yeah.
Shout out to my dude, Tim. We had a game. All right, dude. I love your vision. This sounds great. Let's see who could sell a $2 million home first.
Yeah.
That was such a big deal at that time. Probably 2 weeks after I kind of write out this vision, I get a call from a buddy of mine who owns a company called Diamond Supply Co.
Yeah.
Like the definition of the dream client.
Okay.
For this new vision,
yes.
right? And he's like, Kev, 2011 was crazy for my business. First of all, I'd love to sit down with you and kind of like talk over my goals and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm like, oh, cool. But at the same time, I think I could qualify to buy a house. And I was like, is he going to say 2? So we're on 1.5. I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We start looking at homes. We're talking goals. It's like the perfect blend of exactly what I had envisioned, because he also wanted something mid-century, modern, contemporary.
Right in your lane. Yep.
2 weeks into the home search, he gets a call and he's like, hey, so turns out I could buy up to 2.5. And then February 2012, I do my first deal for 2.5 million in Studio City on Woodhill Canyon. And Instagram was just popping off.
Yeah.
And I remember the night of he has like probably 1 million followers now. The night of our celebrating the closing of his house, he got his K for hitting 10,000.
Really?
Like if you look up Nicky Diamonds now, I don't know how many followers he has, but that was a big deal because Instagram just started the year before. Yeah. I had maybe 300 followers. He posts thanks at Kevion, and my Insta just starts to go off. And that's when I also realized like Instagram is going to be the number one tool that I use to let people know that I'm in real estate. So multiple things happened in the first 90 days of 2012.
Dude, that's a wild year.
Yeah. That was the start. That was the first year where it was like, because you figure I was ready to leave the business at the end of 2011. I sold 4 homes in 2011. Average sales price, $550,000.
So we got to talk about brand, personal brand, social media. It's kind of my thing. It's something I'm passionate about, and something I really respect that you do really well. And so, a couple questions wrapped in hopefully a story.
Yeah,
is social's got dark sides to it. Social's got other things to it. Sometimes there's vanity, metrics, and people want to be followed, and it creates this kind of weird, fake, almost reality,
especially in real estate.
Oh my God! Well, and lending. I mean, man, if I see any more hustle porn from people, I'm just like, stop it! Like, don't do it anymore. So, but I got to ask some questions on it. So, you went all in on it. I can tell. Mm-hmm. You do a great job with it. What happened? I mean, how'd you deal with it? And what I mean by that, because I want you to unpack this a little bit, is people are still they don't want to showcase their stuff. They don't feel comfortable. They feel like they're faking it. So walk people through kind of your journey on this.
Well, even when that thing happened with Nick, I don't think I realized how, especially at this point, there's not videos. Like when I started doing Insta, pictures. There's no videos and there's no DMing.
Yep.
This is 2012.
Yeah.
So even in the beginning, if you scroll thousands of photos back, because I don't know how many posts I've done now, probably 3,000 or something. It started off as just fun.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, everybody could be a photographer with the filters. So it didn't start off right out of the gate like, I'm going to use this thing to blow up my business.
Yeah. It
was like, if you scroll way back, it is more of my kids and more at some hip hop show and more at stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was very like grassroots. And so, and then next thing you know, you get video, and then you have the DM options, and then next thing you know, you can actually boost things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, really, I think the challenge with a lot of people, even in the industry, is they think that that social media is the cake.
Yeah, good comment.
And in my opinion, like Instagram is not the cake; it's the icing. If you don't have a real business, if you don't have real transactions, if you don't have a real story, then you're just all icing and no cake, So I would encourage you to figure out like, what is your business? And don't try so hard.
Yeah.
Like, what is that product that you have? Because here's the deal. If you have a great product, you're going to shine. You're going to succeed in business no matter what. I feel like there's such a drive just to succeed on Instagram. Like,
absolutely. No.
So what is like succeeding on Instagram is not necessarily going to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of likes, or you have a lot of views, or you have a lot of followers, but is that translating? Is that impacting? What is that doing? So Yeah, it was really grassroots. It was like really by default for me of just like continuing to do it and genuinely enjoying it. I talk to a lot of people and they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't like it.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
like,
A lot of people say
I
that.
like using it. You know, I like the, I don't know. I like messing around with the ability to share things, and I think one of the things that's important to remember is that it is a visual
Yeah. No doubt.
platform. You know, so the goal is to make things look awesome.
Well, let me ask you this. A lot of people, I think, to your point, misunderstand the platform.
Yeah.
But how do you choose how to show up on it for yourself? Because I feel like you do it very naturally, maybe more,
Mhm.
maybe organically. So maybe this question will have to you have to dig down a little bit. But like, there are people who I can tell they're putting on a face,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah, I
like,
gotta
that's
be a
not real. That's not even
motivational guy.
you, dude. Like, that's not you.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen you,
Right.
but like your stuff comes across very authentic
Yeah.
and true to yourself. So how do you choose? How do you find that?
Well, I think the first thing is knowing who are you,
Well,
like,
come on. Let's start with an easy question.
right? Like, who are you? What are you all about?
Yeah.
So I'm about inspiration, education, right? So my intention on my Insta, my slogan is inspired to move,
Yeah.
right? Our other slogan is now it's a recent one is it's less corporate, more connected,
Yeah.
right? So it starts with like, what is your message? And my message is simply, I want to inspire people and I want to educate people and occasionally make some people laugh.
Yeah. You do some funny stuff.
You know, so
That sports commentating one,
yeah,
that was
that
hysterical,
was
bro.
good. That was a lot of fun. But that's I think it's first figuring out like what is your purpose? What is your intention? If your intention is just to kind of like blow up and be famous,
Yeah. Good luck.
I don't know, that might happen,
Yeah.
but it's going to be really noticeable.
Yeah.
You know, I've never bought followers. I've never done anything like that. I share authentically what I'm into, and as long as it's in that same line of inspiration and education and motivation, then that fits. So I think that's the first thing is like, what is your message?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I know there's a good story here, so I want to ask it, and I want to go down the rabbit hole for a minute.
Mhm.
You launch your own gig.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Very few people have the courage to step out.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then, you know, we had this weird thing like this pandemic that happened.
Yeah.
So what was the timing of this whole thing?
Right in the middle of it. Yeah, I mean, we had been operating as an independent brokerage for probably 2 years already. Like the company that I worked for before at its core has an amazing soul, but locally it was an absolute mess.
Yeah, you didn't align with it. I
No.
understood.
And so, you know, we had our own office, we had our own locations, we did our own training, we did our own recruiting, we had a director of operations. So it was just, you reach a point and it's like, okay, I'm paying this place
Yeah.
300 grand a year.
Yeah.
What doesn't make any sense anymore. And so we decided to go for it and start going through the motions.
Yep.
And it took some time. Shout out to Frances, my sister Frances. If it wasn't for her, I don't think any of it would have happened.
Yeah.
And then you have to have a broker.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I
know how long it took me to pass the real estate test. I'm like, somebody else has got to be this person. So it happens November 2019.
There you go.
Let's do this. All right, let's go big then. We're building a brand here. Let's get a location. Perfect. Newport Boulevard. My wife finds a location.
Really cool spot. 3,000
square feet, 100,000 cars a day. The place was a wreck, but we got 3 months to hook it up.
Yep.
Cool. Let's do work. You know, spent a good 6 figures something fixing the place up and having it really be about our brand.
Yeah.
Oh, and then right in the middle of construction, which was March, I remember like the place was being totally ripped apart. And I had a lot of friends. You remember first quarter 2020. I had a lot of friends that were like, hey, something's coming.
Yeah.
I just don't get in the mix.
Yeah.
I'm so focused on my goals. I'm not paying attention to this stuff. And I had friends who were like, dude, go get some toilet paper. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And then I remember,
Bro, I remember that.
March 17th.
Yep.
My wife is like, hey, you got to get Kaizen and Azella from school and make sure to get all their stuff. We're going to go on lockdown. And for how long? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We're right in the middle of construction. We're supposed to have our grand opening April 1st.
Bro, what are you going to do?
We didn't stop. That's for one thing. Like, for me, I know what it's like to operate as a parent without electricity.
Sorry, I was checking on lighting. Go for it.
You know what I mean? For me, like, I know what it's like to operate a business as a parent in a home without electricity.
Yeah.
Like, think about that for a second.
No, nobody knows how to do that.
This is in 2008.
Yeah.
And I was going through seasons where I couldn't pay my bills.
Yeah.
And my electricity would get shut off. I left real estate for about 18 months from 2007 to 2008 to try to start a motivational training company.
Sure.
Imagine trying to start a motivational training company from your home and your electricity gets shut off.
Yeah.
That means there's nowhere else you could go.
No,
and you have to work your way out.
Yeah.
So I know what that's like. So when this happens, I immediately go into my survival mechanisms, which are, let's go.
Oh my gosh,
let's do
bro.
what we can with what we've got. Like, unless I die, you're not going to stop me. You know what I mean? I'm the guy who in 2015, when I broke my leg, 2 weeks later, I'm going on listing appointments in a 3-piece suit on a scooter. Like, I'm not going to be stopped. And so the pandemic hits and I'm like, all right, guys, I'll see you all on Zoom every single day. I was one of the most active real estate company owners through the pandemic, hands down. I'm leading a Zoom call, uplifting my team, coaching my team every single day, telling them, do not stop making the contacts. Continue making your 20, 30, 40 contacts a day. But here's the difference. Don't talk real estate. Call people and see how they're doing.
Really?
Call people and see if there's anything that we could do.
Smart, bro.
Because we are essential workers.
Smart.
They might not be able to leave their house. They might be afraid of going out of their house. Drop people off things. Pick up the phone. Now is the time to show who you truly are. When you get squeezed, you see what's inside of you.
Yeah.
And inside of me is passion. Inside of me is an unstoppable drive to succeed and break through. And nothing's going to stop that.
Dude, I feel like COVID was defining for people and their careers and their businesses. And so I watched Case and you come through this and you radically became different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would almost say you radically became more true to who you guys are as a culture.
Yeah, we did. We did, man. We got really clear on, like, you know, I think COVID had a lot to do with it. It kind of really made you think, like, what's important?
Yeah.
You know, I let go of some people, like big people. Why? Well, because you realize that in these times when you're squeezed of, like, how do you want to spend your time?
Yeah.
And just because somebody's making you money, well, are they bringing anything else to the table? Do they fit on a cultural level?
Yeah.
Are you holding them back because they don't?
Totally.
And if you really care about somebody, you're not going to hold this person back. You're actually going to be okay with the money you might lose.
Yeah.
You know, and so we had to make a lot of decisions for the sake of the brand.
Well, let's share that story for a minute, because there's leaders that listen to this.
Yeah.
And this is a really impactful thing. You know, culture, defending culture, building it, holding it preciously, is something that people they lose sight of that when there's money on the line.
Right.
Money distorts it. You're like, and so let's talk about top performers, culture, toxicity in the workplace. You know, how did you manage that? What'd you deal with? How'd you deal with it?
It's definitely the hardest thing I've had to deal with, without a doubt. Because I would say the number one biggest reason why is because of how much I care and how much I've poured into people. We're talking about individuals who came to me many times. We had to write letters for them just to be licensed because of their path. Like, people who worked at very random places. Like, I don't want to say any certain places.
Yeah, but we get it, dude.
You know,
we can
people who literally started at the very, very bottom, and we looked out for them. and they shot me a DM, or they reached out and they made the call, and we poured everything we had into them. And it's a lot different than a regular brokerage. When you're bringing somebody into your home, when you're loaning them money, when you're loaning them a
Yeah.
car, and 18 months later they're making $250 a year, $350 a year, $550 a year.
Life changing.
Talking about somebody that was making $10 an hour,
Yep.
who is now making $750,000 a year, and all of a sudden the energy goes from appreciation to expectation.
Entitlement's a dangerous thing, man.
So and so company is going to do this for me, and all of a sudden, you know, they're kicking their feet up with their shoes off in the middle of a place that you call your home, vaping, and you're like,
Vaping.
Nothing against anybody that's vaping, but
I
you
feel
realize,
you're painting the picture, dude.
You realize, damn, I think this individual needs to find a new home. And it's hard. It's really difficult. Not even because of the money, because to me, what I actually receive from the brokerage is less than 10% of my income. We treat everybody like family.
Yep.
And if that energy is not going to be reciprocated,
Yep.
and you're just at case for money, it's not a place for you. And so I think you just have to have the guts to say and know what your values are. And you can't let one person, as soon as one person starts it, that is a cancer.
Yes. Yep. It'll spread, man.
I have zero tolerance. I don't care if you are a 300 mil a year producer. That energy, to me, and creating this tribe called Case, and really wanting to create a brokerage that truly felt like family, where people look out for each other. If that's not what you're about, and you just want to come up in here and feed off of the, you know, and take from the table, nah, it's not the right place for you. There's lots of other brokerages that you can just pull from and not pour back into.
So you've hit some levels of success that are pretty cool. Done some cool stuff. I know you're proud of it. You should be proud of it. You've done a really, really great job from a crazy past.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to ask though, how do you not lose focus of the basics? You know, or what keeps you grounded in doing what always works versus thinking. So we were talking about entitlement,
right?
And this is where my head goes. I've seen people who kill it, especially in good markets,
right?
And then all of a sudden their shit doesn't stink.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Like, look at my bit. Look how much I do.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, you're so how do you stay grounded in that thought process? How do you keep your team grounded? What are the core practices you stay on no matter what? Because you know that they deliver results.
Right.
Share some of that stuff.
So to me, real estate is two things. It's prospecting and it's appointments. That's it. Plain and simple. It's prospecting and it's appointments. And Case, there's four main pillars: vision, structure, skills, and most importantly, accountability. Those are the four key pillars of Case. Vision. What's your vision? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you taste it? Do you have an understanding of the 7 equities? The 7 equities is one of the number one things that I coach my team on, my whole company. 7 equities are your mind, body, and soul first, then your family, then your friends, then comes business and money. I want you to ball out mentally, physically, spiritually. I want you to have relationships with your family that are true and real and sincere.
Yep.
I want you to have true connections with your friends, because when you have that, when you're whole and complete in those first 5, mind, body, soul, family, and friends, you show up to work and you don't need money.
Yeah. You're on fire.
Because you don't need money, it's so much easier to attract it. So
love that.
Next is structure. And structure is just another word for time management. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist.
Yep.
If you give yourself all day long to do something, it's going to take you all day long to get it done. Next is skills. Do you have the ability to connect on a rapport level, to handle objections? Do you have game? But then the big one is accountability. So the accountability that games that I play with my team are usually about prospecting.
I've seen some of these things. They're hysterical.
Week after week after week, we play these games.
Yep.
And the thing is, I do this stuff.
Yeah, no, you're in the meat.
I came back from door knocking in a guard-gated neighborhood just right now.
I hope you were going to mention that, bro, because I love that shit. I love it.
You called me yesterday. I was about to knock. I can't wait. Why? Because look, we're about to get this TV show, supposedly, and I promise you, my phone's going to be going off the hook. Guess what I still will be doing? Door knocking, prospecting, making my calls. The question is why, though?
That's right.
Do I need it? I'll tell you why. It's because I love it. Plain and simple. I love it. When I don't prospect, I feel anxious. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I could double end $100 million home and get some fat check. I need to go prospect. Why? Because it makes me feel like I'm doing what I can with the time God's given me. So if I don't do these things, I just don't feel good. So, you know, I think if you enjoy the game, it's not that difficult. But that doesn't mean, I'm balancing like 30 something escrows right now. You know how many little calls there are to do?
Yeah.
You know how much I
Details are
can sit
gigantic.
around and talk about the disclosures and talk about the
Yep.
appraisal and make sure somebody wrote an avid and
Oh.
then the fun stuff like, oh, did we get so and so the closing gift?
Mhm.
What closing gift? Blah, 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 blah. I have to go out and do my thing. So that's where the magic A word, which is accountability. We get shot with paintball guns. People get tattoos. We had this really gnarly hot chip challenge last week.
My God,
People
bro.
have pre-written checks. This week's game in particular, we're all playing this prospecting game of a minimum of 125 doors plus everything else. Any person, including myself, who does not complete their 125 by Monday, don't show up. I told everybody, including myself, stay home and sit around asking yourself why you can't do the bare minimum. Stay home. Do not show up. Don't come to work next week.
Bro, I just want to talk about this for a minute longer because it's even in any sales industry, mortgage, real estate, the work that's the work. Prospecting is the work.
Yeah.
The S is details. It's
Yeah.
details. It really is.
Right.
Without the work, nothing else happens.
Right.
And we get caught up in the other stuff.
Yes.
Pipeline management. I love your talk. The details. Did this
Yes.
happen? You get caught in that all day long, and then you turn around and go, I had a productive work day, and you didn't
do
do anything.
You didn't do anything.
Anything.
And you know what the thing is, the challenge with those things. So right now I'm trying to let go of a few agents and hire 3 more admin, right? Why?
Sure. Details.
So that they can be absolute Jedis at their skill set, at their craft.
That's right.
The thing about a lot of those things are I can't control so many of the things that are going to occur in the bit. These things are out of my control.
That's right.
So I feel like the Jedi understands that he needs to do the things that are within his control.
Yeah.
If somebody cancels escrow, they're going to cancel escrow no matter how much you shared the comms with them.
Sure.
No matter, this is what they decided to do.
Yeah.
What can I control? I can control the next one.
Yeah.
I can control finding that next lead.
Absolutely.
I can control pricing the home right so that we get multiple offers and a bidding war occurs. But if the escrow falls apart, I didn't do anything to create that. I just need to get that thing back into escrow.
That's right.
So I feel like the key is really doing the things that push the needle forward and make a difference and make an impact.
I wish everyone hears this over and over again because it is the magic.
Yeah. But it's hard to do. Even though we enjoy doing it, even though we know that getting up at 5 a.m. and getting the gym is good for us, it's difficult to do.
Yep.
So that is where I love to live my life with these accountability games. And I'll do crazy ones.
Share a little bit about that. And the reason I want you to go a little deeper on these is number one, they're funny stories.
Yeah.
But number two, I think people suffer from lack of accountability.
Especially in real estate.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you've gamified it a little bit. Give me some of your favorite ones. You set up goals for the week. Are they weekly?
Yeah. So again, two things for me as an agent. There's 2 things where the magic happens. It's prospecting.
Yeah.
And it's getting up to bat.
Yep.
So my ultimate dream is to go on like 40 appointments a week, right? Mm-hmm. Like, bam, you show up and it's just insane.
Yeah. Next one.
It's just back to back. That's just like next level, right? So when I'm not prospecting, the goal is to be getting up to bat. So this was 2 years ago, and this was when I was trying to get on 11 appointments.
Okay.
Right. I wanted to do, because I had done 10 and that was a struggle. So I'm like, let me go one more. I want to get on 11 appointments. So I was in a mastermind group with my friend Enrique, Rich, Isabel, and Mike.
Okay.
And I told these guys, I was like, hey, look, I'm going to do 11 seller appointments in a week. If I don't, I'll eat a ghost pepper.
Bro.
Right. And so
people vomit from ghost peppers. Yeah. Like it's not.
So the week goes by. And again, I treat every single week like it's my whole life. Like this is the week. Like right now it's quarter 4, week 3. This might be the end of it all. So that's what turns up the heat is like, I don't get into week-long or month-long or quarter-long ruts. I might
Keep it
have an
here.
hour rut.
Yeah.
But I live my life like this is it. Quarter 4, week 3, you know? And so I play these games week by week. So backtrack. I did the 11 appointment.
Okay.
And I'm on my mastermind call with these guys. And they're like 11 seller, right? Well, I was like, no, I did 9 seller, two buyer.
Oh no. Caught.
They're like, you said 11 seller.
Yeah, we wrote it down. We have it documented.
So I call my buddy who owns this restaurant. I was like, hey, dude, where do I get a ghost pepper from? And he's like, for what?
For what? No one needs that.
He's like, yeah, you don't want to do that. Dude.
No, yeah.
He sends me all these YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And
I've seen
like
some.
Dying.
They die.
Like, oh my God, it's like I'm eating glass. And I get on the call with my team, with my squad, and these are just agents all over the country who I love, who I started this mastermind group with. And I was like, you guys, we got a little problem here. Like, this isn't safe. They're like, well, you said it. You got to do it. And so I'm like, look, watch these videos real quick. They watch them. They're like, well, you need to come up with something else. And I'm like, well, I'll bite of cat food and I'll put it on IG Live. Nah, coming up with other things. I don't know. I'll put like 3 vanilla ice lines in my eyebrows. Nah, that'll be fixed too soon. I will get a tattoo of each of your initials. And they were like, oh shit. So people are like,
no,
what is this? So
no,
Rich, Isabel, Mike, and Enrique. Right? So what are you willing to put on the line for your integrity?
Yeah.
What are you willing to put on the line of, are you your word or not? Because without accountability, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be a slime ball. I'm going to be a little weasel. Like, I didn't naturally have crazy psycho discipline. God bless you if you did. Yeah. But the way that's not it. I had to develop this. I had to put these structures in place in order to be great. I'm not automatically great. I have to put these structures into place so that I can achieve greatness. And this is every single day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So get some people around you, you know, that you can play these accountability games with. I think that's one of the keys to really breaking through.
Yeah.
Is think about what's going to push you forward. All right. What are you willing to put on the line? You know, what are you willing to do if this doesn't happen? And play the game week after week.
Bro, you spent 47 minutes with me.
Bam. That's big, bro.
We're gonna wrap it, but I want to do this here. We talked a ton about so much depth today.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of comment do you want to leave somebody who's watching his thing at the end here about their business, about their mindset, hardship, about what they're experiencing? What do you want to share, dude?
First of all, be very cautious because you're on a platform most likely where we're sitting around comparing ourselves to other people.
Absolutely, right? Dude. People do that all day long.
So first things first, be very aware of that comparison killer. Your life is unique. Nobody has your life. Nobody knows your story. Your journey, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Yep. First and foremost. So, you know, you have no idea what somebody else might be dealing with, right? You look at Warren Buffett and all his money.
You have no idea.
You know, would he trade his life for yours? You know, when you think about where he's at in his stage and his age, do you think one of the wealthiest people on the planet might still trade their life
just to be younger?
Right? So think about that and make sure that as you set these goals, number one, I want to encourage you to go 10 times bigger than you ever thought was possible, right? Why? Well, why not? Number one, why not? Why not? Why not go big? I want to encourage you to think about in our industry of real estate and mortgage, what is the Oscar? What does the Grammy look like to you?
Yeah.
Paint a picture about that. And number two, you got to love where you're at right now.
Yeah.
So I guess there's 3 things. Number one, don't compare yourself to anybody else.
Seriously,
number 2, go ridiculously big with your goals. If your goals don't frighten you, if they don't scare you, you're playing too small. But number 3, you got to love where you're at. You know, when my wife and I split up, At the beginning of 2012, I was going through all these things. I was struggling.
Yeah.
And I was totally broke.
Yeah.
And my drinking was out of control. And I just remember being alone in this crappy apartment at the beginning of 2012. And I had to get grateful with that. I had to get grateful with that. If you can't find a way to fall in love with where you're at right now and all the problems, all the challenges, all the fears you might have, whether you have the money, whether you don't have the money, whether you're the health level where you're at, whether your marriage is where it's at, whether it's not where it's at, the bottom line is that you have to fall in love and appreciate where you're at right now.
Yeah.
In order to get to that next level.
Yeah.
You just have to. You have to love it for everything that it is and everything that it isn't. And if you can do that and you can get into a high level of gratitude for where you're at now, that is when you can say, well, let me add this to it too. And because your vibration is already in abundance, you can then bring that abundance to you also, because lack attracts lack and abundance attracts abundance. So get into that abundant mindset, dream big, and watch what happens for your life.
Bro, I know you have to get to a listing
Let's
appointment.
go.
I know you have to get to a
Let's
listing
go.
appointment. So thank you very much,
Thank
guys,
you.
for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. More modeling podcasts coming at you this week than you can handle. So be ready. Thank this guy, Kevin. You're the man. Take care, buddy.
Thank you.